All right, welcome back everyone to Water and Communications 2025. We are on this final week. I've been really happy to see the engagement, the passion, the solutions that you've all shared, your knowledge and everything, especially in this global context. I was really moved by the solidarity and the global vision that you all brought together. So I really wanted to share that from my personal perspective, that I really appreciate the solidarity that you've all shown today, the last 4 weeks. So before we jump into then I need to get back my slides. Before we jump into the session, the regular logistics that this time I have here. Thank you for your patience. So, is it coming? Yes. Something is really slow today. Sorry about that. So really wanted to thank the Grundfos Foundations for making this program happen, especially Anne Bisgar Christensen and Virginia Newton-Lewis, who have been key partners in making this program. So before we get started, a reminder to activate the interpretation, even if you want to hear this conversation in English, as most of the conversation will be in English, but we might go to Spanish sometimes, so make sure to activate. At the bottom of the screen, you will have the globe icon with interpretation. It can also be located under more, so look for that and activate English, Spanish, or Arabic. If you have any issues, please type in the chat and then we can assist you, either I or Shay, who's still with us today, helping with the technical details. A reminder as well that the recordings for week 1, 2, and 3 are ready, so you can see all the sessions in 3 languages on the YouTube channel of World Water Week in the playlist Water and Communications. And as we are on the final week, I wanted to give you an overview of what's coming in the next few days after the program. So today is a panel discussion led by Paula Hernandez, whom I'm going to introduce in a few seconds. On Thursday, we have the final session with Max Boykov about climate comedy. Really, that would be the final of the full program. By the end of this week, if you want to participate in the August 14th session, that's the additional open session for you, you can submit a story to share with others. You don't have to submit a story. You can just participate as a listener, as a contributor. But if you do have a project to share, something that's really close to your heart, linked to water and communications, and linked to our specific topics that are linked to World Water Week, please share that via the form. We will share the link in a few seconds in the chat and also via email. That should be, please submit your story by the end of the week. So by the end of this month, you'll get this wrap-up email from me with a link to the evaluation survey for this program. We do really look at your ideas and recommendations and feedback on improvements to build program year by year. So we would really appreciate, once you receive the survey link, to share your comments. What worked, what didn't work, what you would like to see differently. That really help us to build a program that fits your needs. Then early July, we will announce the presenters that are selected for the August 14th session, and then we will issue the certificates. All that will be recapped at the end of this week in an email. Then we have the session on August 14th, where you get to present your project in 5 minutes, and then you will be placed in breakout rooms to share with others. So even if you don't have anything to present, you can still contribute ideas, solutions, collaborations that will really be your sessions for peer-to-peer learning and networking. And then, of course, at the end of August, there is World Water Week in Stockholm and online. even if you cannot participate physically, because we talked about the barriers. I really encourage you to sign up online. It's free of charge, and then you can still make the most of the networking, of the online exhibition. You can share, you can, of course, look at all the sessions online, get water knowledge on so many topics. So do register. And for those who can attend in Stockholm, I'll be really happy to see you at the mingling at the Grönfors Foundation's booth. So we can connect in person. Let me know if you'll intend to be there. All right, and of course you will have access to the recordings, the sessions material, everything long after the workshop. That's it for me. If you want to share with us in the chat how you're feeling for this last week of the workshop, if you want to share one word that describes how the program has been so far, how you feeling about this program, I would really appreciate that, to see how it's been for you. While you do that, I will introduce today's speaker. And I need to clean up my desktop. All right, so with us today, we have Paula Flores Hernandez, who will be the host and moderator for this panel. Paula holds a bachelor's degrees in hospitality management and 2 master's degrees, one in sustainable development and another in sustainable food systems from the University of Leeds in the UK. She's a sustainability consultant, mentor, and educator with over a decade of experience leading high-impact projects in water stewardship, circular economy, sustainable procurement, and net zero strategies across Latin America. She has worked with a wide range of stakeholders, from startups like Quilimo or multinational food and beverage companies like the Coca-Cola Company. Welcome, Paula, and I will let you introduce your panel.
Thank you, Lucille. Thank you for the introduction and also the invitation. Today I have 2 amazing people and also speakers with me, and I'm happy that they joined the conversation. I will hand the microphone to them in a couple of minutes. First, I would like to welcome everyone. I'm honored to moderate today's session about the transformative power of water storytelling, because currently we are facing a growing water and climate challenges. So communication has to go beyond the technical report or even the crisis-driven headlines to inspire more people to act, to care, and to connect. And that's exactly what we're going to do today in our session. We're going to hopefully leave you with this sense of connection and move to action. Before starting and introducing today's speakers, I would like to give you a quick overview of the 4 topics that we are going to be talking about today. So the first one are the challenges of communicating water issues, especially because we know that sometimes it could be a little bit more technical, or this doesn't resonate as much with people that are not in the water sector. The second section that we're going to talk about is the risk of negative storytelling and how can these lead to eco-anxiety or disengagement. We're going to start with the problem, and then we're going to move to a more positive side in the conversation. So the third section will be about what builds trust and emotional connection in water communication. And finally, what are those essential elements of a powerful water story that can inspire real collective action? After this panel discussion with Dani and Manuel, which are the speakers of today's sessions, we're going to open the floor for questions. And I invite you to join the spirit of this session by keeping your questions respectful, reflective, and on topic. So let's begin. First, I would like to introduce Dani, Daniela Puerta. Thank you so much for joining this session. Could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniela Puerta. I'm the communications director for Coca-Cola Mexico. I've had very long career in journalism in Colombia, and then I worked at different PR agencies for strategic communications for different clients, and now I've been 5 years at the Coca-Cola company.
Thank you, Dani. And before introducing Manuel, I would like to be more interactive. I know in some parts of where you're looking at us, like for me in Mexico, it's 6 a.m. in the morning. So I'm going to show you a video so you wake up. And then that's going to be our introduction for our session and for Manuel's presentation. Let me just share it with you. This is also what I think it's a great example of what we're going to be looking through the whole session, because it's how to communicate about water and to move to action.
Water connects us, sustains us, challenges us. In Ica, Peru, Rica leads a collective action for water sustainability, working together with communities, companies, and local governments to build a future where water is a resource available to all. In the upper parts of our watersheds, we accompany farming communities in the recovery of their ecosystems, technifying grazing practices, promoting reforestation, and building infiltration ditches that allow each drop to return to the earth, feeding aquifers. In the lower part of the valley, we promote the Mara project, recharging the aquifer through disused wells in strategic areas such as the successful case of Golda Meir, demonstrating that it is indeed possible to return water to the subsoil in an efficient and sustainable manner. We also promote innovative partnerships for wastewater treatment, where companies reuse treated water for agricultural irrigation and, in return, support local governments in drilling new population wells, thus expanding the water supply for communities. And because we believe in the recovery of our spaces, we are giving value to the IKA riverbed, temporarily transforming it into a meeting place for culture, sports, and environmental education. We are Synergica. We believe in collective management, in sustainable solutions, and in the power of uniting for water and human rights. Join the collective action. Visit us at www.synergica.pay.
Welcome, Manuel. Can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
So thank you, Paula. Hi, everyone. I'm very thrilled to see so many people from so many different places. My name is Manuel Olaichea. I'm from Peru. I'm a farmer. And I work also, beside farming, in Synergica. I'm the president of the community. We are an association of farmers that we try to make a difference and change in the way that farming is being seen around the world, the responsible farming around the world.
Thank you, Manuel. For me, it was so important to have both perspectives, Manuel's and Dani's today, because I think it's going to enrich the conversation. We don't have often, this is a unique opportunity for the people that are joining us today to listen about what farmers actually, the role that they play and the voice that they have in these projects. It is not something that common, and also how they also work with companies in order to achieve the water, their water activities or the water commitments. So thank you both again for being part of this panel. Let's start with the questions. So for the first section of this panel, we're going to talk about one of the main challenges in communicating about water is the main projects tend to be quite complex or technical, which can make them harder to explain to non-expert audiences. Taking this into consideration, Dani, from your experience, how do you move beyond just technical or crisis-focused messages and tell stories that people can really connect with?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think we've learned a lot. I've personally learned a lot on communicating about water, because it is, I think, one of the biggest challenge we face as a company. We've tried a lot at the beginning to show and to demonstrate that we were doing things that made the difference, right? So we were trying to show numbers and to prove that we were in a lot of territories and to prove that our global goals were trying to be met everywhere in the world. But we saw that, sorry, we saw that our stories weren't getting anywhere, and that those numbers and that impact that we wanted to show wasn't really like staying in the mind of people. So we've tried to turn around the way we tell stories and start putting faces to that stories, right? Translating the important messages without taking data away, because of course data is important and it's like the way to prove that you're also accomplishing stuff. But we've translated our messages to telling stories through the people and the communities who really live around water and who really like are in the day-to-day of our programs. And we've also learned because we do have like a lot of different programs that appeal to a lot of different techniques or that are in different communities. And we started learning that, for example, if we talked about artificial wetlands, it was difficult for people to understand how did it work. The visual that we saw, what is the change between the before and after. So we've also started to choose those programs or activities that are easier for people to understand. For example, it's way easier to talk about water access than reforestation, yeah? And it's not because we are doing more of one than the other, but it's because it is easier for people to understand, because this has to be accompanied by visual content, by the people who are receiving this water or are involved in the project. So we've tended to change our ways of telling stories, and also be very focused on stories with faces and communities that aren't just heard, but they are like really felt, because that's the main aspect around water. Water is like our main resource for everything, for our daily lives, and that has to be accompanied by the people who deal with different situations in their daily base. So that's what we've learned and what we're trying to change in how we tell water stories.
Thank you, Dani. I love what you say. What about we are moving for stories that are just heard to a story that are also felt. I think that's a really powerful quote that we can steal from you when communicating about water. In your case, Manuel, from your experience working with the farming community and being a farmer yourself, what challenges arise when messages are too technical or negative as well? Because we have both type of messages. And how these messages resonate in the community, and what are the responses of the community when this happens?
Well, our problem is that usually we pretend, or we try to find one message and one solution or one problem. And when we talk about water, in our case, for example, in Ica, Peru, we have so many problems related to water that is not just one solution or one problem. So people stay talking about only one of the big spectrum of problems that you have in water management, and usually they believe that it's the only problem. And and more than anything in developed countries, in Europe, in the States, they don't know about our real basic and really stupid problems being real. For example, just one short example. There are cities in Peru where we have 4 hours of sweet water, 3 hours, 2 hours of sweet water per day. Why? Because the drainage is bad built and it's really small. So if you give more hours of water to the people, the toilets go up and the seawater and the gray waters go inside the houses and in the streets. So they decided the best way to manage this is to give water by hours to one group, after that the other group, after that the other group, and like this they can manage the problem that there is no good drainage in the city. And that's a problem that happens in a lot of our countries. Big in growth, cities growing, not organized, and making problems that in Europe they are not comprehensible. So they imagine that it's a problem of lack of water, instead that we don't have drainage. So the story is quite more, the whole story is a different story. In Spanish we say that a half of a truth is a big lie. And that's what we are seeing here. We are seeing that the stories tell only a part of the story, so people fill the gaps with their own knowledge, and they assume that there are not other problems. And that's when we can fix the situation, or we can actually talk about all the problems, because the only problem that is in the media is what looks like to be the only situation, and it's not true. So, for example, in Peru, we are known as a country that lacks sweet water, that has problem of sweet water, and we are I think the 13th country richest in sweet water in the world. So something is not matching the reality, but the story is different.
And how do those messages, do you think, that resonate in the community, especially like in the farming community? How do the people respond to that type of half-true, which is still a lie? What is your perspective from that?
The problem is that they are not really interested in listening. Once they get the first idea or the first message, they do their own evaluation, and after that they believe that if we say something different, we try to explain something, is because we want to, as farmers, we want to say, no, it's not our fault. Farming is water. I used to say that we sell water in different shapes. The shape of an avocado, a grape, or mandarins. We depend on water. The most interested group or stakeholder in fixing the water problem is farmers, because we know that without water and quality water, we have no business, and that's the first of our concerns. But once the story is told and it's repeated, and that's a big problem in communication, that somebody say A, and A is the story that gets told again and again and again and again, and repeated without even checking if that's true. It's like the source say something, so you keep saying the same story. Sorry, and it's really hard for us to work and to try to explain, because they always think that we are trying to justify ourselves.
Here even though you both work in different industries, different areas, I think I'm gonna start looking for some connections here. Danny mentioned it was sometimes hard to tell those stories because it was kind of technical. So then you have to shape the narrative. And also for your perspective, Manuel, the narrative also affects directly a community in a way that they are not motivated to act. And both of them also have to protect yourselves, in terms of what are people telling about your story. So you need to come and tell your own story and all the things that you're doing, and do it in a way that really resonates. So it's quite powerful. Also, one thing that you said that I loved, Manuel, I think that we have to stick to the audience, is that farmers sell water in different shapes, and that's true. That's quite powerful. So let's move to the second section of this panel discussion. We already have really interesting quotes, so I'm excited to see what else you're gonna say. So let me just pop up really quick a presentation for Danny's question. And will be this one.
Water connects us, sustains.
We are live, so this will happen. Let me just present it. I think I'm gonna have to.
Water connects us.
There we go. Perfect. So for this second section, I want to ask you, negative or fatalistic narratives can often lead to eco-anxiety and reduce people's motivation to engage or to take action. Manuel already gave a little bit of introduction about this, but Danny, I have a question for you. Water-intensive industries often face criticisms, which makes communication especially sensitive. In your view, how we can shift the narrative to be more constructive and inspiring rather than defensive or alarmist?
Yeah, so I think naturally, like the way we historically tell stories is by avoiding the problem. And that's okay, because we cannot deny the problem. And facing the problem and pushing the problem in media, it's super important. Not only because people are aware, because it pushes everyone to do something about it. But I also think that we are in a transformation of the way we communicate, of the way we consume media, of the way we consume information. And we are like, we have a lot of ways of getting information. Like I had a dinner last night when we talked about this, and we say, like, back in the day when you wanted to know something about what was going on, you go ahead and you waited for the newspaper to be printed, and then you had one, maybe 2 or 3 stories, and this person or this journalist had to go to that place, do a deep dive, do an investigation, and you needed to trust this person for the story, right? Now we are just bombarded with a lot of information from a lot of channels, and with a lot of fake information as well. And we tend to be like on constant fear of, is this true? Is this not true? All of this information is like giving me what we are starting to see as eco-anxiety. And it's basically, we hear so like many negative news that we are starting to feel that we have no hope, right? And this is some of the statistics that I wanted to show you, because Edelman, that is communications agency, they do this year trust barometer, and the trust barometer basically does an interview to different people on how they are perceiving governments, NGOs, companies, if they are trusting them or not. And this recent Edelman Trust Barometer showed this: 77% of the population is concerned about climate change. That's not big news. But then we have almost 55% identifies as pessimist. And then the biggest, and for me, the most surprising data is that 66% say they would feel more motivated to act if the media focused more on solutions and progress rather than just disasters. And I think this is a very good highlight and path we can go through, because media has this tend to focus on telling bad stories. And I'm not saying that is bad, because I said it at the beginning. It is also important to highlight. But the way we are telling stories is playing a huge role in the incentive we have all to act, because it is making that people lose hope. And when you lose hope, you feel like what you are doing is not making a change. So it's starting to have a real impact on the initiatives that people do in their daily lives that have a huge impact, right? And it starts to escalating this message of, if I do something, not just for water, but for recycling or for any other environmental impact, if I do anything different, it's not going to make a change. And I think that is a very delicate message that we need to start seeing. We are not going to solve, and Manuel also told this, we're not going to solve water problems just on one side. If we are not all working for solving water problems, the problem is not going to go anywhere. So at the end of the day, for me, it is very important on how we play a role on not just highlighting those eco-anxiety stories on water is going to end, we're all in a problem, there's nothing to do about it, but on what are all these innovative solutions that are coming from a lot of places, what are the different stories that are very valuable and that we've learned in our process of how to tell little stories also makes a difference. Before, we were focused on telling these huge stories, right? If it was a huge story with a huge impact, with a lot of people involved, it was a valuable story. But if it was little, it was not such a valuable story. And we've started to change our mind around it, because when you see these little stories starting to add up on little communities and people that are starting to feel a difference on projects that we do, it starts to add up, and it starts to connect directly with a lot of people that really feel that way, right? That are experimenting the same. So I think it is crucial to start having these stories that maybe have more positive vibe and have more of a focus on innovations, on solutions, on what type of things can we do if we are working together for a solution, no? And not focusing only on we are running out of time or there's nothing else to do, but on a deep level of amplifying stories of collaboration, resilience, and concrete progress of the things we do.
Thank you, Dani. I think that this is really amazing data, and I hope that all the people that are watching this video I'm hopeful that they're gonna help us. Probably in 2025, when Edelman does this trust barometer, we're gonna shape it a little bit, and we're gonna move from this 55% of overwhelming, and that is not gonna move to action, to people really think that they can move to action because people are willing to tell these stories from innovation, solutions, working together, and collaboration. Thank you. So Manuel, let me just stop sharing my screen. Manuel, there are often also misconceptions about the farming communities when it comes to water use and climate change. From your perspective, what are some of the most common ones? And also, what we could be done differently in the way these issues are communicated to avoid any stigma and build that collaboration?
Sorry. First of all, I'm in a forum, as you know, so I want to be sure that you hear me well, because there is a little bit of noise in the corner. It's okay?
I think that if you can put your microphone a little bit closer, that will help.
Like this?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, can you please, Paula, share the two publications, the two links that I sent you first? I want to just give you an image, an idea of news that come from my region in Peru. To give you an idea and start from there.
Just give me a second and I will do it.
I think Shay is showing them in the chat.
Yes, and also I'm gonna put them here as well. So here's the first one.
Okay. Charity says United Kingdom supermarket fruits and vegetables imports are driving water emergency in Peru. And there is a letter, and information about how water scarcity is affecting people, water problems related with access to sweet water and wash is affecting the citizens of our regions. Just to say, Peru, it's not all farmers, just 2 regions work in farming. Can you push the other one, please?
Yes.
United Kingdom supermarkets driving through water emergency. And this, if you look for this news or this kind of publication, you're going to see it around the world. Okay. What's the effect of this kind of publication? And I'm not saying, well, this is a little bit exaggerated, but I'm not saying that part of the article is true. Okay. As Daniela said, we're not saying that the problem doesn't exist. We are saying that it depends how you talk about it. You get one result or the other. So now, after this kind of news appears in the countries and driving in this kind of way to be communicated, the effect is that United Kingdom supermarkets, Swedish supermarkets, European supermarkets stop or reduce buying products from Peru. What's the effect of that for Peruvian communities? Not only it's not that farming stops or reduce the consumption of water. No, we shape to another market. We stop selling to the United Kingdom, that is a country that asked us to have water-related certifications, that ask us to be responsible with our communities, to ask us to have certification of human rights and labor programs to be sure that fruit are being well cared. And we stop having those kind of clients, and we have to move to other parts of the world, or we have to sell our farms to other people that are not worried about the future, that are not worried about what's going to happen in 5, 10, 20 years. So this kind of this kind of message, said in this way, I'm going to try to move to another room quickly.
Don't worry, no. We can hear you well.
Yeah, I think here's better.
Yes.
Yes, fast solutions. Farmers adapt everywhere. Well, as I was saying, telling the story in this way only produce a negative effect on where you want to help. So we say in Spanish, well, in Spanish and I think in different languages, but there's a phrase very common that is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And that's something that happens when the story is told without measuring the consequences of what's going to happen after that. Is this kind of message, we can sell it, or we can say it, sorry, in another way. It's like UK supermarket driving per water emergency actually is not really true. United Kingdom supermarkets buying fruits from desertic or zones where the water is, has scarcity is true, and they are pushing to reduce the gap between WASH and projects. Can you show the CFAP link that I sent at last?
Yes, let me see if I have it here. I think that I lost it, Manuel. But
don't worry. We as farmers in ICA, we are working with supermarkets, not only in the United Kingdom, but in all Europe, trying to make progress to try to reduce the effect of the underground water decay in Ica Valley. We are managing with the highlands communities to try to reduce and help them with the management of the vicuñas and alpacas. Those United Kingdom and European markets that are being accused of drawing down the water in our valley is the only ones that are helping us. They are the only ones who are sending or participating in projects trying to do something. So if the news start harming the economy, they are going to change. They are going to say, look, we can work in those zones. We can try to do anything there. So just let's move to a different zone. There are lots of countries that produce grapes, lots of countries that produce avocados. So let's go somewhere else where nobody is going to tell us anything, where there is no problem. And as there is no problem, they are not going to have problems, but we are not going to have people engage in looking for solutions. So farmers that want to do well things are not going to be well paid. So we are going to go worst. We're not going to disappear. We're not going to be punished by not being providers to the United Kingdom. So we're going to look for other markets, and other markets don't care about us. So that's the importance of selling the whole story well said, not just to create a dramatic story.
thank you, Manuel, for sharing this example. I think it's quite interesting because that's another thing. Right now, we're quite globalized. Like, we don't sometimes think about the impact of my action here, for example, in Mexico, or someone that writes anew in the UK, and probably sometimes even the intention is right. Probably the intention is to push those supermarkets to move forward those situations, and they don't know that they create the different impact. So this line, we come again for the first section of our conversation. It's so important to tell both sides of the story. It's so important to go back and see what's the whole picture, the good and the bad, so we can tell these stories in a way that does not affect in Peru, but affect in the UK. But by the contrary, it moves to this collective action that we're talking today about. So thank you for sharing this point of view and this example. I'm gonna stop sharing and share again. I know that, thank you for the audience for staying with us. Like, I know that we have been talking about a lot of challenges or more on the negative side, but we are moving forward that. We just want to set up the room of the conversation on that. And we're going to move forward to more how to move to that collective action. We just talk about what happens when we communicate in a negative way, and now what happens when we do it right, and how we can do it right. So in this section, we have been discussing about these possible impacts or alarmist narratives, and what do they happen with the audiences. Actually, Danny presented us with really interesting data, and Manuel with some interesting examples. But now the question is, what key elements help build trust and inspire confidence to engage the public in a constructive conversation about water? And to begin this section of the panel, I'm going to show you a video about a program that Coca-Cola has. Let me just double check that I shared with my audio. Yes, perfect.
Water connects us.
Llevamos los proyectos de replenish, que quiere decir reabastecimiento de cuencas, y la meta es poder regresar al ambiente el agua que Coca-Cola ocupa donde está presente.
Con el proyecto Escuelas con Agua se busca brindar agua limpia y abundante a las escuelas, y lo hacemos a través de la instalación de un sistema de captación de lluvia.
Presas filtrantes en cauces, hacemos trabajos de obras de conservación de suelo, estamos trabajando también con humedales artificiales y en general estamos tratando de inspirar a la acción en las comunidades, que son los otros aliados importantes de esta sociedad que tenemos en conjunto.
Los proyectos que tenemos en Toronto son para la recarga de acuíferos. Estos proyectos lo que hacen es la gestión hídrica a través de la retención de escurrimiento que promueven la infiltración.
El trabajo que hacemos con Coca-Cola en particular tiene que ver con plantaciones. Nosotros, como manejamos el tema del agua, es una conservación de hábitat, restauración, conservación, reforestación y justicia ambiental.
Exclusión de tierras, la mejora de los sistemas de riego, obras de conservación de suelos.
Nosotros trabajamos con inteligencia artificial aplicada a la agricultura.
Si no hay seguridad hídrica, no hay seguridad alimentaria, y esto va siempre de la mano con cuestiones de salud y con la prosperidad. Si esta necesidad ya está satisfecha, da más tiempo para seguir yendo a la escuela o para crecer o dedicarte a lo que quieras.
En Coca-Cola hemos encontrado que ellos están buscando una compensación real. Nos permiten hacer lo que es correcto para el ecosistema.
Gracias al financiamiento que se tiene, se puede trabajar directamente en las comunidades y los ejidos.
Y Coca-Cola tiene un gran alcance a nivel mundial. Esto permite que lleguemos a muchísimos lugares. Siempre la colaboración entre industrias como Coca-Cola, que promueven grandes recursos, y empresas como Toronto, que están enfocadas a la sostenibilidad.
Es un mundo donde nosotros podemos mantener nuestros procesos productivos indefinidamente. Estamos consumiendo de una manera donde siempre puede haber esta recirculación. Es una economía circular.
Siempre, obviamente, con la visión de que tenemos un punto en común, que es este mundo que nos une para tener un mundo mejor. Creo que es cuando podemos avanzar a tener proyectos de mayor impacto.
Todos somos únicos y todos somos necesarios. La diversidad es la fuerza.
Tener diferentes puntos de vista te hacen entender las problemáticas y también las soluciones desde diferentes ángulos. Y eso acelera la innovación.
Nos une
el mundo que queremos.
Nos une
el mundo que queremos.
Nos une
el mundo que queremos.
Nos une
el mundo que queremos. Great. Also, because of time concerns, Danny and Manuel, I'm gonna put together the two sections where we are left. So first, I want to talk to Dani about what elements have you identified as key to building trust and connection in water communication, and what roles does consistency between what is said, what is done, and how we say it plays in this role.
Yeah, so thanks for your question, Pau. And what we've done, or we recently did, is that we created this platform that I show you guys on the video that's called Allies. And basically, Allies is having this joint platform from all of the people we work with around water. So we had a lot of projects in different parts of the country. This is a platform that we created for LATAM. So we had different projects in Mexico and all around LATAM, but they were like working individually, and they were like doing very specific things in specific territories. So what we tried to do was started by connecting them and like sharing information between them of what they were doing, of what initiatives they had. They all work around water, but in different aspects. And then what we did was create this platform to be able to give them the opportunity to tell their stories from their own. So our allies are basically the ones who tell the stories, because they are the ones who are living the stories in the day-to-day basis. So what we do is share stories through our allies and go and do this like visits of the communities to see what other actors in the communities are willing to contribute to that storytelling. And it is important to say that since we have a lot of channels right now and a lot of ways to communicate, what we've learned is to do a more specific communication depending on the channel, and trying to sum up with the audience that we are connecting. For example, at the beginning, we used to share information or went and do visits with journalists to the places we had water activities. But sometimes it was difficult to explain because some of those projects you cannot see like the before and after. That is, if you go and visit, for example, if it's a reforestation project, you need to see pictures to see how it was before and how is it after. And sometimes we did a visit and it was just a land with a lot of trees. People didn't understand. So we've started to have this visual identity and visual examples also for people to start understanding on what was the before and what was the after, or what was all the process we did to be able to have the project, and start telling stories that are a little bit more visual and have a little bit more context for people to really understand what we are doing.
And for the follow-up question, Dani, it's like, what are the qualities of a story that inspires and raises awareness and also spark this meaningful participation? Like, if you want to share also like a concrete example about it.
Yeah, for example, we have a project in Toluca, and what we've done is like it was a really nice project because it was a reforestation project, and as I told you, it was difficult like from a visual side, but we started having our ally in Toluca to start speaking and explaining in their own language, and then what it evolved in the project itself. So it's farmers helping their community And for example, in Toluca, we had the case of young people that were going back to the community to learn about the project and to be involved in the process. So we started sharing like the different sides of the story to be able to have a complete like storytelling around it. And also,
Daniela, I'm sorry to cut you, but we really have to move on. So I would like to wrap up in very close, so we have time for Q&A. So if you can shorten like in just 30 seconds, that would be great. Thank you.
Perfect. No, so we had like those different actors on telling each one their component of their story, and with that we made up like the whole story for people to be able to understand.
Thank you, Dani. Cecile, can I give Manuel a couple of minutes, 2 minutes to answer? Perfect.
Yeah, I think it's important to hear Manuel's voice, and then we'll move on to Q&A. If you have any questions for the panelists, please type them in the chat, and then we'll take that from there. Thank you.
Thank you. So Manuel, it's the same question for you. Like, what key elements do you identify that they could build trust and collaboration between around water? And if also you want to share a story that inspired these collective actions.
Well, actually, we are in a really big problem nowadays, I think, because trust is lost more than anything in our regions, in the south. Everybody is saying that whatever I said, if whatever Daniela say because she's from Coca-Cola is not going to be true. Nobody heard what she said if they start with the mind that she's from Coca-Cola, so I'm not going to listen to her. You know what I mean? That's the big problem that we're having now. People stop listening and have his prejudices as the first stopper in any kind of communication, and that blocks any collective action that can start. In our case, the only thing that helped us to move on was to start doing. We start a big, a kind of a big for us collaborative action and collective action with the European supermarkets, but it's not that we started from the beginning. We start doing it for 2 years, and once the community was, once some of the, in a forum in Edinburgh, like 3 years ago, we tell about what we were saying, what we was doing, and some supermarkets in Europe, CFAF, RAP, say, look, we would like to help you, we would like to participate in what you are doing. But it would be really hard for us to come and just say, we are going to do this, would you help us? Because they don't know if we are doing it for us, if we are doing it for our own benefit. We lose the confidence between us. So the only way that we find that we have to start a collective action is to start action and then invite people to get in that action. Not only words, because we lose not only the trust, but also the voices that we used to have, maybe when I was younger in the last century, that there were people that talk and people listen and believe in what they said. We have lost it because we have so many problems in media, in crossing information, in blah, blah, blah. That nowadays, only actions are being believable.
Thank you, Manuel, for sharing. And you say something really powerful. Sometimes right now with all the communication around and how it's just a reflection of what we have been talking in this session, is that we are being polarized because we just hear one side of the story. So if I just want to grab really quick what we have been talking today is, we focus a little bit on the problem, but because of that, we have to just realize how we are being polarized when just hear just one side of the story. and we start listening about all the good action and all the good things that are happening. So if I just have to grab up this panel in terms of what makes a story impactful for being a collective, to move to collective action is to showcase innovation, showcase solutions, so working together, and also give the beneficiaries or the people that are actually working in these solutions and space to tell their stories, and also try to work between actors that things are different between each other, and tailor your story depending on the channel. So now we can, sorry that we have 2 minutes more. We took 2 minutes more. It's still, but I want to open the floor for questions. And I just want to repeat what I said at the beginning, that we are talking today about collective action and how we can move forward to work together. So take this into consideration when doing your questions to the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Paula, for arranging and hosting this conversation. I want to take a few questions from the chat. And I'm going to bundle 2 questions that are sort of related. There's one from Elena and one from Marissa about for you, Emmanuel. You said something really striking about what farming is water. So you sell water in different ways, in different shapes that you said. How do you see the water quality influencing your product? For example, Elena, for example, talk about the Middle East that use a lot of wastewater and recycled water. Do you see that a solution or a risk for long-term agriculture? And then Marissa has a different perspective. She's also from Mexico, and she would like to understand better how, like, what kind of farmer you are and how that shapes your water consumption.
Well, so let's start with the second question. It's shorter and easier. Well, actually, we are, well, in my case, I have 19 hectares, and I work with other farming companies. We produce avocados, grapes, and citrus with a irrigation system that is drop by drop. So it's the most effective and the most what's the word for when you don't use too much? Efficient. It's the most efficient way of irrigating, but it's not sustainable because of the condition of our region. What we have in our region is a lot of water that comes in summer during the rainy season. And this, at the beginning, this water, we couldn't use it in irrigation systems because it was full of silt. So all farmers start doing irrigation with drops, but with systems that that can afford to be used with dirty water, for say something. So we use underground water. With time, companies have moving to do this kind of farming with underground water, and the aquifer has started to go down and down and down for like, well, actually, the time we get into a crisis was in the 70s, I think. So we have been problems with water and underground water since then. And nowadays we are looking to find a way to give back this water that now we don't use and go to the sea. We have every year we throw thousands and thousands of cubic meters of sweet water to the sea because we no longer use the irrigation by flooding. When we used to flood the fields, so the water go down in the aquifer, and at least we have more water. Now the format has changed, so we have to change our way to farm, not go back to a traditional way. That's not the way we're going to move forward. We need more food for more people every year, in all the world. So we need to find a way to recuperate the aquifer using more management aquifer recharge programs, and like this we can keep in a leveled progress. It has changed during the years. Every year we have less depression in the aquifer. But look how it has been told. In 2010, they say in 5 years, the aquifer Ica was going to get dry. Very important information, very important reports. 5 years, no more water in Ica. 2015, they say, for 2020, the water in Ica is going to be completely dry. Not true. 2020, we have exactly the same report. In 5 years, every 5 years, they say, in 5 years, we're not going to have more water. And that's the problem when the information is not given in the right way. Okay.
Well, then I have a follow-up question about that. Like, what do you, because we are here today, an audience of mostly journalists and communicators, people who work with the information. What is your advice as a farmer? What do you need from us, from this community? How can we help?
To check up, to check the information that you say. The fact that there is a report, say, by someone, say, for example, Water Witness, say, I don't know, World War Fauna. Look, I understand that you have the belief in some institutions, but there are other ways to just check what they are saying. If it's true, it's true. There's nothing to say about it. But just double check, and not only in Ica, in Peru, double check everything that comes from, and I don't want to be globally, it's my opinion, but double check everything that comes from governments that are corrupt, that we don't have a good order, that information is not so clear. Because a lot of those reports used to use public information that is actually not true. So I understand that a company or a NGO that comes from Netherlands or England goes to Peru and assume that everything that it's public information from the government, it's true. In our case, it's not true. And I think that it happens in a lot of countries, or third world countries or undeveloped countries. So double check, there are other voices. So if you want to talk about us, ask a little bit around and verify what you're saying before to publish it. It's your decision. At the end, you have to publish what you want to publish, but check it just with other actors in the zone. And about the quality of water, just to...
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. If you can, shortly.
Shortly, yes. Actually, the quality of water, when we talk about fruit and vegetables, it's important when you talk about fruits and vegetables that are in the ground, like potatoes, onions, those things are, sorry, I'm not, my words are not going well. Fruits and vegetables that grow in trees usually have no contact with the water. So a bad quality of water used to kill the plant. So we don't have good productions. A bad quality of water in terms of wash problems can bring you fruits or vegetables that can be contaminated with E. coli, different disease. And in our regions, we don't have a good wash project. So it's something that you really, really have to care. Desalinization and projects like this usually don't give any kind of problem with the fruit. They have some after, they have some problems after with the brine that it produces. So we have to take care of how it affects the ecosystem and those kind of things. But usually it doesn't affect the quality of the fruit.
Thank you, Manuel. I would like to move forward with a question to Daniela. Cecile, if it's that possible. There is an interesting question about when it comes to environmental issues like water specifically, Dani, there is not a specific like journalist just focus on water or an environmental YouTube. This is from Mohammed, or an environmental YouTuber or a water TikToker or Instagram. So what would you be your advice as a person in the communication to bring these environmental or subject matters to the social media spectrum to become the influencers for this collective action, and more in the corporate responsibility in social media. Also, you can put like an example of what you have been doing as well.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think it's important that, and as we said, and sorry, I don't know who did the question, but this person does a highlight that is very important, and is that we don't have journalists anymore that cover deep dive of topics, or it's every time it's the least common. And not only on water, but in general, we are losing like this, journalists that do deep dives, or that are like super focused on one thing. And this is because media in general has changed, but it opens space for not having like a deep knowledge on a specific topic. So we've done both with media and of course with influencers, that it's another way to talk about it that is very impactful, but it requires a lot more of a company, because not influencers are not like really expert on these topics. So we've included both like analysis and sharing data, and going with to media clips for them to see with both influencers and journalists, so they can have like our side of the story and see with their own eyes and interpret like what they are seeing, and being open and transparent on the questions we have. But it is like doing the ride with both of them very like close, in order for them to really understand, because it is not that easy to explain. And when we don't have journalists or influencers that are really specialized on the topic, it is a little bit more difficult. And on the other side is that we are like willing and trying to find those journalists and influencers that are open to hear our story, and that are open to see different sides of the story, in order to have like the complete view of what is going on.
And then there was another comment from Francis that kind of adds to it about, do you think it's a good idea to also include schools to take information to the community?
Yeah, it
would be on the other side of the spectrum, like really not specialized at all, but like how does that also?
That's super important, because, for example, we have a water access programs in schools, specifically in Mexico, that's called Escuelas con Agua. And what we've been doing is making students part of the water access programs in a more educational side. So we make the teachers and the students accompany, have like an input in all the process we do, and have a responsibility on how to prevail that water access system. In that way, they are responsible of having that water access system live for a long time, but they are so involved in the process that it helps in an educational way on the importance to have that water access program, and and how to take care of water in general. So yeah, through our programs, we also and at schools in this specific program, we find like this match to work with students and teachers.
Thank you. Thank you, Dani. And also, I just want to add to the person that did that question, Dani, was Mohammed. And I just want to add, when I was working with Quilimo, we were a partner with Dani and Aliados por el Agua. And we also did these TikTok trends and stuff together. So it was a good way of not necessarily putting their whole story about it. It's just, there's a trend in TikTok talking about something different where you can relate it to water, just go ahead and do it, you know. And it's a way that people are going to start looking at water as a common conversation, because even though we use it every day, sometimes we forget about it, which is crazy. But it will be another recommendation as well for Mohammed. And I'm just gonna start wrapping up. Thank you everyone for your questions and for your to enrich this conversation. Really quick, in 1 minute, Manuel, can you just give us your final thoughts, that you want the audience to keep with them, and then I will move forward with Danny.
Sure. Well, you all know your business. You all know that you are journalists, so you know that your job is to communicate, but it's also your business. It's also from where you get paid, and we all know that sad story, horrible story, or impactant story sell more than just puppies. I would ask you to try to go farther and look between those two needs that you have to tell the truth, to communicate, and to make business, so that your business don't get between the true and the real thing that you want to say. I would like to share my LinkedIn on the WhatsApp, in the chat. And if anyone wants to do another question or following up, I'm more than happy then to give information.
Thank you, Manuel. The same for you, Danny. What will be like your final thoughts that you want to give to the audience?
Thanks. Well, my invitation is for you. I'm trying to see all your comments. I haven't seen them all. I'm trying to see all of your comments. I know that Coca-Cola inspires a lot of feelings in all of you, and that's okay. We are all entitled to have different feelings towards things. But I also invite you as journalists, as communicators, to be open on telling different side of the stories, and or on doing a deep dive, and or being open to hear what we've done. I think the solution on these things is that we all have an input, and that we all work together, and that the problem is not going to be solved just on one side. And the problem is not going to be solved if Coca-Cola is quiet, or if Coca-Cola stops sharing their stories. So my invitation is for all of you to be open to hear. We are trying to be transparent with the information. We are trying to be creative on how we tell these stories. We are trying to be close to communities and to our allies to have stories that are more of a feeling, that create feelings, and have a deep dive on the audiences. And just don't forget that behind of this big corporation that you see, and Coca-Cola and this big company, there are people like me working on a daily basis. People that wake up and are trying to do their best effort to make a change and make a difference. And it's not only me, it's millions of people all around the world trying to hear all of your criticism, trying to change it, trying to go and hear communities and see how can we do things better, and how can we improve with different solutions. So just my ask is be a little bit more open on having different sides of the story, and maybe we can get together to improving, because we're always willing to improve and have more solutions and have more ideas. but that's my final thought.
Thank you, Daniela. I also want to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining the conversation. I know sometimes this type of conversation get, as I said before, polarized, but I think it's a way to listen different side of the stories. And I would like to invite you in a way that for us to really make collective action, what we need to do is to look beyond the problem and the criticism and shape that to proposals of what can be done. So I will invite you to change the narrative and shape the narrative to bring different people on the table, because if we keep polarizing the speech, then farmers, big companies, other NGOs are going to leave the conversation. As Manuel gave the example, we don't want farmers to stop selling their products. We don't want big corporations or NGOs to work in water in order not to be attacked. So let's take this into like the conversation, and that's the only one thing that I want to invite you in a way to create collective action. We all have to be able to sit in the same table and propose things to move forward. So thank you, Daniela and Manuel, for your insights. I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you, Cecile, for the invitation. And I leave you with the microphone, Cecile.
Well, I want to share the thank you back to you, Paola, for organizing this conversation. That was really brave, I have to say. So I'm really admire you. I want to thank Daniela for being open as well to this conversation, and Manuel for your insight. That was really interesting. And also thank you for connecting so early, the three of you or I guess Manuel, you're in Europe now, but based on the Latin America time zone. So thanks for that. Also want to thank you all for the very open conversation we had in the chat. Really appreciate how you shared your concerns and comments in a very respectful way. So really appreciate that. Thank you, Grundfos, for sponsoring this program, Grundfos Foundation. As I said, we have the final session on Thursday with Max Boykoff about climate comedy. So very different approach, but we need everything and everyone at the table to make change happen. So tune in on Thursday for that. Don't forget to submit your water story, and then look for an email from me with a couple of links and follow-up actions before the end of the week. And I'll see you on Thursday. I'll see you in August 14th for the open session. And then I'll see you at World Water Week. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.